Hello and welcome. My name is Olga Chwa, and I'm delighted to guide you tonight in a movement and meditation practice. We've got a Monday here in Northeast Ohio. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to support this channel. We begin with a moment of steadiness and silence and stillness, inviting the whole body to relax and soften as you prepare for the movements that we'll do in just a moment. And it might be tricky. The body might not be able to get soft or become soft at will on command. And so you're acknowledging what you're feeling. You're noticing anything that's calling your attention, letting the mind tend to the body. And you might even have an intention for the session tonight. You might have a reason for being here that's very specific. You might have some body part that you're caring for or some life issue that you're contending with. And those are all welcome. Whatever you're bringing here is most welcome. And I invite you, especially now, to just find where it is in your body, whatever you're sitting with or lying down with or bringing today. How is it in the body? What is the body feeling? What's the shape that the body is taking? How can it be most comfortable? You know the limitations, and I deeply, deeply encourage you to honor those limitations, to listen to your body. Your body is the first teacher. Let's stay with the feet for a little bit. Let them be wide enough apart that both feet can reach to the left and both feet can reach to the right. So like a windshield wiper. And you might feel that all the way up into the legs. It's the feet that are doing the big movement, but that impact is coming up through the lower and upper legs and into the thighs, giving this left and right windshield wiper to warm up and lengthen the length of the legs. And you might even do a great big windshield wiper by putting one foot on top of the other foot. And then you're letting the hip lift up, if that's true, in the two directions. To have a great big windshield wiper there. Foot on top of the other foot. And then in the rotation, you let the hips roll to the side. Seeing what that does. So I'm showing sitting up, but can be done equally in a deeper reclining position. And these are explorations, right? These are invitations to notice where the feet go, what's possible there with the ankles, as the rest of the joints are invited along. And then you give it a rest. You might even give it a little shimmy, a little shake as we move into an awareness of the knees. So focusing on one leg, choose right or left to begin with, and having that leg lifted enough so that you can open and close it. So just feeling into the open and the closed, opening that joint a few times up and down, and then stopping halfway, knee at a right angle, the foot or the leg bent, and you're drawing a minus sign, a little dash, a horizontal line, so that we can establish the points available and then connect the points in a rotation. High, outside, low, inside, around and around in one direction, and then reversing that and going the opposite direction like you did with the ankles. We've got circles, and then things can get more exciting with shapes like figure eights or that bow tie shape of a infinity symbol. Finding what is available in your body. We've got two directions here again. In one direction, 3 or 4 times, and then reversing that direction, going the other way, especially with the knee. You've heard me say this almost every week. Take a moment to compare before you continue. As you complete one side, take a moment to really feel into what you've done, what those effects are. On one knee, on the other knee. Starting with an opening and a closing, our familiar knee movement, and then a little less familiar knee movement, the horizontal rotation, and that's available when the leg's at a right angle. Not so available in other positions because the hip plays an important role in that. It's not the knee alone. Finding those points and connecting the dots. Circling around. Clockwise and counterclockwise. 3 or 4 rotations. From there, a scoop into a figure 8 or an infinity symbol. Finding both directions. Knowing that infinity can be reversed here in the physical world, in the 3-dimensional practice. Go the other way. Letting those legs find what they need and giving them a rest. Some of you like to do both legs together. You have that need for the strengthening, for the balance. You might choose to do that. You might choose to rest for a few breaths. You might have some other knee thing that you know that helps you, that you want to sneak in here. So let's take a little moment to check in with your lower legs, with your knees, with your ankles, before we move officially onto the hips and take a little moment to give your knees anything else they might need. The practice with both legs together, or perhaps returning to something that you noticed on one side. Moving in a way that feels good. And let's take another moment there as you prepare to focus on the hips. If you're on your back, if you're lying down, the invitation is to scoop a leg up and bring it all the way for a hug into the chest. You might even point it out towards the armpit on that same side, or point it inwards towards the opposite shoulder, and having a little bit of a hip hug and stretch. If you prefer to be seated, this is available too. It doesn't go as deep, right? Because the body stops it. But you can practice these directions. You can find these different places to point the knee to get some of those stretches at the hip joint. So whether you're lying down or sitting, bringing that knee in and exploring where can it point, where can it open something up. And then our next task is to give the knee a rotation. So again, if you're sitting, you might imagine that the knee is a laser pointer and you can draw a circle somewhere on the ceiling or the wall opposite. Same thing, if you're lying down, you might bring that knee up and move the thigh bone, the femur bone around and around. And if you're looking for core strength, if you want ways to strengthen and engage the body, you might practice this with a straight leg. Lying down or sitting up, lifting the straight leg to rotate is going to demand all the core strength here. It will serve to increase that strength if you practice regularly, sustainably. One side and the other, one direction and the other. Anything that's a circle can be something more complicated if you've got your wiggles and squiggles there. In their directions, clockwise and counterclockwise. And as you complete these movements for the next few breaths, paying attention to the hips, checking in with the hips, asking the hips, what do they need? How are they feeling today? And we'll go into a figure 4 for the hips. So if you're on your back, if you're lying down, the figure 4 has both feet on the floor, and there's a couple of variations. So you might choose the one that's most aligned with your intention and most beneficial, most suitable for what you need here. Variation 1 is bringing the foot to the opposite knee around the top of the thigh there where the thigh meets the knee, and then scooping that whole unit up. A little more intensive a variation, and that has some regulation with what that hanging lower leg is doing and the supporting side. And variation 2 is to not lift, just to bring the leg there and to keep this whole unit and let it twist over to the floor. So we have 2 different options here. It's a little dark. I'll put on this other leg, might be helpful. So the figure 4 is that initial setup, and that might be a stretch. Just putting the thigh there, the knee there, might have plenty of information and impact on the inner thigh, on the hip that's lifted. If you want more intense, you can scoop that unit up. If you want something a little different, you can twist that unit over. And I've been demonstrating in a supine reclining position, but some of you might choose to explore and experiment with this seated. It's going to be more intense because the angle of your upper body to your thigh is smaller. So if your upper body is lifted, but you still can get into this figure four, you might find that it's giving you a little bit of an intensity and a reach. Same options are available to us. That option of up and the option of over to get at the outside of the thigh. This is especially beneficial for iliotibial band, anything that you hear about, both knee tension, hip tension. It's this common tendon of tensor fasciae lata and gluteus medius that come together, run up the outside of the leg into the outside of the knee. So that twisting often gets into that. So take your moment there with the fours, figure fours, right side and left side, comparing between the two. You might return and do another round. For some folks, these are their favorites. So you might hang out here for a while. And then we'll do something a little nicer, a little less intense for the hips, which is both knees to the right, both knees to the left, both knees out like a butterfly, and the option of both knees in, inward rotation. Again, you might be lying down to do this. You might be sitting up. With the sitting up option, we've got sort of an animal relaxation pose to bring the knee side to side. So we're going to stretch the legs and impact the hips. Knees out with feet together. It's our butterfly option here. And the option to inward rotation, the feet wider apart, giving the hips lots of room there. And inviting the legs one at a time before attempting both together. So take another moment there with your hips, seeing what you are learning about your body, how the body is responding to these movements. Coming back to rest, coming back to reassess. And we'll stay with the hips and the spine before we move to the arms today. Coming onto the hands and knees when you're ready for a bit of a cat pose. Upon having warmed up the feet and the legs, keep that quality of softness and looseness through the hips. You might even begin with some hula hoops, with some rotations. The hips around to the right, to the left. And you might have your favorite cat things to do, and by all means, let this cat be as independent as any cat you've ever met. But if you're looking for hip stuff, if you're looking for that sacroiliac joint stuff around the iliotibial band, let a leg reach back. Keep it on the floor. You might even twist it inward or twist it outward. But letting that one long leg and the weight of the body sort of rocking around that, give your hip and your knee a little stretch, a little access. Anything you do on one side, you will repeat on the other. If you're choosing to lift the leg high, that might be good. That might be nice. You might even get a stretch through the front of the body there, but see if you can be mindful of what you're choosing to do with the hips and try all the possibilities. The hips turn out, and then the hips also can turn in. The leg can be lifted, but brought lower, parallel to the floor, getting access to some of the more subtle fibrous joints there. There's subtle joints there in the back of the pelvis. Sacroiliac joints where the sacrum meets the iliac crest. Figuring things out for your hips. Giving them a little more rotation and soothing. And while you're here, if you're here on your hands and knees, take a step forward with the hands, getting the hands further up so that the face goes down towards the floor. Elbows can go down towards the floor and the hips stay up. That might be a stretch for your shoulders, around the armpits, maybe into the chest. You are the boss. If it feels good, you do it. If you've got an idea of how to make it feel better, you try that. And when your body says enough, absolutely listen. And as you complete that piece, giving your hips whatever else they might be asking for, we're going to do some backward and forward bending. We'll do a balancing moment. Got a few things on our list here before we rest. Check in if your hips got what they needed there. And with the feet a little closer together, you might choose to look up, to lean back, and then to do your forward bend. It might just be something small today. You know what you need. It might be just a little back and a little forward. Or it might be something deeper. You might be reaching down all the way to the floor. The arms are modified to your needs, to your availability. And the higher they are, the more difficult it's going to be. So demonstrating with the hands on the back first as the most supported place to go. As you explore the forward and back, we've got psoas and iliac is here in the core strength, enabling these movements. Rectus femoris, the top quad, has a little job here too. That forward bend. Feel what the hamstrings are doing. As you reach forward, they're lengthening. The back of the body is stretching in the forward bend. And then the hamstrings engaged to bring the spine back up to upright. Glutes, lifting the body. Hip extensors. Forward and back a few times, arriving at the center, arriving into the middle for a moment to balance, to catch your breath. Feel through your body. Got some options here for balance. You might have your favorite balancing thing, and this is an awesome opportunity to do it. Balance begins on 2 feet, and then it advances onto 1 foot. So that might be the extent that you are practicing today, is catching that balance. I've got a couple different things to offer you. In past weeks, we've been turning out. Today, if you reach, if it's available to you, from that front position, letting the body find its steadiness on one leg, bringing that foot to the back, holding on with the hand. That might be just a place to rest, a place to stop. Right angle in the front for a few breaths. And then grabbing that foot behind for a few breaths. And if you are eager for a third level, a third layer of intensity here, we've got it from the front to the back. And the supporting arm might be out for balance, to open that gap, to open that loop, to move the heel away from the hip. as an invitation, as an option. Practicing that steadiness by focusing the eyes in a single point. And practicing in ways that are kind, that are supportive of your own body. Thanks for joining this session. Notice how you feel in your whole body now, and take a moment to be aware of all the benefits. Remember, you are always welcome to come back. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Maybe hit the notification button to get the latest videos, and like all the videos that you watch. If you enjoy these practices, consider making a donation. There's a PayPal link in the description and other methods on my website at olgachwa.com/sponsor. While you're on my website, please add your email to my list to get the updates of my new YouTube uploads and live Zoom classes and special workshops. All the things that don't even make it to the channel. It'd be great to see you. All gratitude. I'm Olga Chwa.